opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Shaw Cable Systems or of the station. Through our access policy, we provide the opportunity for community groups and individuals to express their points of view.
Well, here we are again in the new year, and we've got some old, familiar faces. I don't want to say old faces, but familiar faces.
Like
yeah.
going there, Lyle.
But our MP, Ray Boughen, has been home for a month, doing some visiting around the constituency, and also bringing some company to us. And let's probably start off with that, Ray.
Sure.
As we film, last night you had the Minister of Veterans Affairs,
Right.
Steve Blaney, and also Laurie Hahn, an ex-regular force serving member, who is kind of like a specialist, very knowledgeable about Canadian Forces pensions.
Right.
And they gave a good presentation, and you got to share them with our audience at the Legion. How did you feel about it?
Well, I thought they did a good job, Lyle. They presented the what's happening with veterans and where things going. I think the minister hit the nail on the head. It's an evolving kind of operation. He's very much involved in making it evolving rather than having it stamped one way and nothing changes. I think that was evident when the question came about in terms of injured service men and women. That we're either regular or reserve forces, and that it's not working right. The reserve should have the same coverage as the regular forces, and both the presenters were of that opinion. That'll happen. So I think the minister is certainly very well versed in veteran affairs and knows where he wants to take that department, and he wants to follow up on what he's hearing in the field. So that was, I think that was advantageous that people heard that.
Yeah, I thought it was Major Chris Hunter, the commanding officer of the Saskatchewan Dragoons, the local reserve unit, who brought that up and said, you know, like, both people go over and serve, and if a regular force soldier gets injured, he has a certain program for him, and the reservists don't have that same program. And they said, yeah, we know, and that's wrong, and they're going to address that. So, yeah, I think that was really a good point.
And you're quite right. Laurie Hahn is the guy to go to if you're talking pensions, military, or RCMP. Their program is very similar, and Laurie has spent literally hundreds of hours across Canada explaining the pension program to regular military and reservists as well. So, yeah, it was an opportunity to hear some top flight information, and that's what we wanted to present to the public, is a chance to hear from the people that are in the know and find out everything you wanted to know, because we had a good question period following, and that was good.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that happened during the break. What other things were you doing besides? Well, you had a little bit of a holiday. I have to confess. I heard you had a holiday.
We did.
And your complexion would indicate there was one there too.
Yes.
Just like many other Saskatchewanians.
Yeah, we left the ice and snow and headed to Mexico for a while, Lyle, and enjoyed ourselves there. Met a lot of moose jaw people.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So that was good. And we're back on the hill this coming Monday.
Yeah.
We'll fly out actually this Sunday, and it looks like an interesting session coming up. A lot of noise around the First Nations folks. A lot of media is covering all their actions and what's happening. And as you know, I sit on Aboriginal and economic development for First Nations. So we'll be involved in that.
What's your take on things with that, Ray?
Well, I think a lot of people have misinformation. They have information, but it's misinformation, and part of our mandate will be to clarify that so people on the reserves feel that their voice is in fact being heard, and that they're talking about many things that are already in place. Certainly the revision of the Indian Act that Rob Clark has presented as a private member bill has been well received by the government. Hit and miss kind of on the reserve. Some people are very much in favor of it, and some are quite skeptical. But again, a lot of misinformation out there, and part of what we'll have to do is make sure people understand what is being said in these revisions of the Act, and where it's all going at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Facebook is full of comments
I'm sure
flowing back and forth, and it's kind of interesting. I think they're negotiating, as we speak, they're negotiating they have the lady end her hunger strike, and that looks like that's a process in the way.
Right.
But I think that I think there might have been, I have to tell you, I think there was a bit of I don't know if a scare, but a waking up of the government when this entity, Idle No More, came into existence, and they like, where does this come from? And it almost transitioned into people who were unhappy with the whole government thing, but it seemed to withdrawn and its tracks back into the native population. But if it had gone beyond that and saying, like, we're unhappy with this, we're unhappy with that, that would be an interesting scenario.
It would indeed.
Yeah. So when you go in next time, you're going in to talk about that. That'll be dealt with, I imagine, pretty early in there. What other kind of things are you're here making noise?
Yeah, we've changed committees, Lyle. I was on regulations, which is one of the standing committees of government, and each change of time frames in terms of the year being divvied up into blocks of 3 to 4 weeks for the House to sit. There's generally a change somewhere in that 12-month period, and this change now occurred over Christmas. So I'll be off regulations and into heritage. So I'm looking forward to that. That's a standing committee and a very active. Minister Moore does a good job on heritage. So we'll have a chance to bring forward some issues around heritage, particularly from Moose Jaw and the Palliser riding, because as you know, there's a lot of heritage tied to this.
The 100th anniversary of the Moose Jaw Armories takes place this summer.
Yes, sir.
And being on the Heritage Committee, this works in really well. Did you ask for that just so you could be part of that?
Out better. No. The whip kind of dishes off which committees you belong on, or which committees he thinks you could serve on, and so ordinarily you have a chance one time in the year to talk with the whip, and then it's up to him which ones you sit on. So I'm pleased that I'm still on Northern Affairs and First Nations Committee. That's a very interesting one, and one that I have a lot of interest in, and it's good. Yeah.
Okay, now how long will this session last, Ray?
Well, this will go right through till June, Lyle. There will be our first go will be next week, and we'll have 2 other weeks into February. Then we'll be so it'll be a 3-week stint. And then we'll be back for a week in the riding to get working through the in basket. Yeah. And then another 4 weeks, and then we're headed into spring, and it'll be either a 3 or 4 week period all the way through till June, and the House is slated to rise on June 17th. So it may be before that, it may be a little later than that, but that's tentatively where we are now.
Well, good. Well, man, now, inquiring minds, I have to put this forward, because when we left the show last year, there was a big talk about, going out to the family farm, game on the dugout, adults versus the kids.
It was an adult disaster, Lyle.
No.
Oh, those kids were just without mercy. They just kind of took it to us, and when we're laying in the snowbank begging for a reprieve, No way, they just kept on shooting it past red light, and
No, you had red light in the goal?
red light was in the net.
Man.
She tries hard, but just can't quite get it together. So anyway.
Yeah. So that's maybe it's just a blip. Maybe it's just a blip.
Well, we've regrouped, and we're kind of contemplating some other activity where we'd have a better chance of winning. And Monopoly came up as one alternative, but we thought, well, that's a roll of the dice, and the kids would have the same chance we would. Okay. They're probably luckier than we are. So we're considering other options.
Oh, at this time. Well,
at this time,
yeah,
true.
Yeah. Well, good. So you've been back. Is there anything that's come up to you during the last little while when you're home that people have addressed to you that came up as something you weren't really cognizant of before?
No, there hasn't been a lot of issues, to be honest, Lyle. I think people are relatively happy with what's happening in government. I'm sure there are some people that aren't pleased on some issues, but as we know, government tries its best to please as many people as you can, and knowing full well you won't keep everybody happy, but that's the nature of
the beast,
of the critter. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. So you leave on Sunday, you come back, and when you come back, we'll get a chance for you to tell us how you think things have been going. That'd be great.
Yeah, sounds good, Lyle.
All right. So that wraps up our time with our Member of Parliament, Ray Boughen. And when we come back, we're going to talk about other parts of the Commonwealth. So I think that'll be very interesting. So don't go away. We'll be right back.